A highly detailed digital sculpt is impressive to view, but creating all the detail by hand can be time-consuming. That is why we utilize alpha brushes to quickly add detail with much less effort. This tutorial will cover creating custom texture brushes for use within Blender's sculpting features. We'll be making a 2D texture for use with a brush by first sculpting the detail we want on a simple object, such as a plane. I like doing it this way because I can see how the sculpted detail will accurately look as opposed to drawing it in a 2D painting software first. Let me show you what I mean. First, gather reference of the texture you'd like to recreate. I want to make an elephant-like skin pattern, so I found this close-up photo online. Now in Blender, delete your default cube if you haven't already, and create a plane. Right now our plane is just one big face, but we want to subdivide it into many smaller faces, enough to hold the sculpted detail. So go over to the Modifiers tab and add a multi-resolution modifier. Before we subdivide, go to the Advanced tab and click under Boundary Smooth, click Keep Corners. I'll show you what this does and doesn't do. Like if we subdivide the plane now, you can see it starts to round out. We don't want that. So I'm going to go to Boundary Smooth and Keep Corners. And now when you press Subdivide, it'll look like nothing's happening, but it's actually dividing it into many smaller faces. Since we were starting with one big face, I think we should subdivide it to around level 8. Now in the Levels Viewport tab, just set that back down to 0. This will come into play later. Now it's time to start sculpting. You can either do that by going up to the top here and going into Sculpt mode, or if you go over to the Sculpting tab, it'll automatically take you into Sculpt mode. Let's start sculpting our texture. I'm going to use the Draw Sharp brush to create the little grooves and wrinkles. If you don't like something you've done, an easy way to erase it is with the Multi-Res Displacement Eraser over here on the side. When you're happy with your sculpted texture, it's time to extract a displacement map. But first we need a new texture map. An easy way to do this is to go to the UV Editing tab, go to Image, click New, and give it a new name. The width and the height can be 512 or 1024. I'm going to keep it as that, and just create a new image. Go to the Shading tab. With your plane still selected, click New. This will create a new material. This is all part of the steps we need to make a displacement map. So I'm going to add a new image texture onto it. I'll search for image texture. Place it there. And I'm going to pick my elephant skin texture. It's just a blank texture right now, but it'll be baked onto it in the coming steps. This image texture node does not have to be hooked up to any other nodes for this to work. Now go to your Render Properties tab. We're going to switch the render engine from Eevee to Cycles. That'll give us a few more options, and if you scroll down, you'll see one that says Bake. Open that up. We're going to click on Bake from Multi-Res, which as you recall was what our plane was created from. And we're going to set bake type to displacement. And that's all there is to it. Just click bake and it should render pretty quickly. We can see the results over on the side. If your map is all gray for some reason, make sure on the Properties tab of the plane, the Levels viewport is set to 0. Hop over to the UV Editing tab again, and under Image, just save out the image. I'll just save it as a PNG. Now it's time to make a brush that can use this texture. Go back to the Sculpting tab. I'm going to pick the Draw brush. I'm going to right-click it. I'm going to click on Duplicate Asset. And we can name this brush anything we want. I'll call it Elephant. On the tool settings for this brush, go down to the Texture tab, click New, click on this little icon over here to show the texture in the Texture tab. We're just going to open up our elephant skin texture, or whatever texture you created. Now we'll go back to the Tool tab. First, I'm going to go down to the Stroke tab and change the stroke method from space to anchored. This is going to allow us to drag out from the center and rotate around the text we want. Next thing I want to change is the sample bias. As you can see when I'm drawing on this, it's kind of puffing out the surface a little more than I'd like. I'd like the gray areas to remain kind of neutral, the black to push in, and whatever white areas or highlights to be raised. So I'm going to change the sample bias to around 0.5. Let me draw that again and show you. You can see how it just cuts into the surface a lot more than puffing it out. Since this is going to be used for fine level detail, I don't want it to be kind of overriding any forms like muscle shapes and stuff I want. Now we could test this out on our model. If you don't have a model yet, just create a sphere and subdivide that a bunch of times and try it out. So I'm liking that. Maybe that's a little intense. So yeah. And that's how we quickly get detail onto our models without having to sculpt every one of these lines. Now I do recommend, if you're doing a lot of stamp texture, is to go in with something like the sharp brush and just add some custom lines connecting it so you don't see the repeated patterns as much. Okay, next thing we want to do, if you want to use this brush for future projects, is we'll right click on it and we'll click Save Changes to Asset. And that'll save it to our shelf of default brushes. And lastly, if you want to have a thumbnail to help you recognize that, we can take a screen grab of this. I'm just using the standard Windows snipping tool. I'll drag around that section of texture. And then, again, right-clicking on the brush, or if you go up to the tool, you can get the same menu from this little icon here. We could say Edit Preview Image, and I'll just go to where I saved that. And there we have it. I hope this tutorial gave you ideas on how you can create your own custom alpha brushes. Don't hesitate to leave a question or comment in the section below. Thank you very much for your time.